Hello again. In this episode, we'll be making some fields and animal enclosures, like the ones that you can see on this tile here, and as always, you can find a link to the PDF file for these down in the description. So, let's make a start. Okay, to make the fences, we'll first cut out one of the fence textures, obviously, and we're just going to score that along the two lines that you can see here. There you go. Then we can fold the paper along those lines. Next we'll need to take a piece of thin corrugated cardboard, or some thick regular cardboard, and we're going to be gluing the paper over the edge of that. So, something like this. However, I found that it's easier if we apply the glue to the cardboard, like you can see me doing here, and then sticking the paper in place. And this is the kind of thing that we're aiming for. Okay then, so once that's dry, we can trim it to whatever size we like, and in this example, I've also scored it in these places here, just to make it easier to bend at all of the corners. And as you can see, in this instance, I'm going for a kind of trapezium shape. Now, it might get a bit messy if we try to use hot glue on something this small, so I'm actually going to use a spot of PVA glue to stick mine together. It does take longer to set, but once it's good enough to hold, we can put that to one side to dry. Anyway, to speed things up, here's one I made earlier. Though, for this one, I went with a basic rectangular shape. So, all we'll need to do now is glue that to one of the hex tiles. And if I just quickly arrange things on this side of the road, I can see where things will need to go. So that looks about right, and once again, I'm just going to dab a little bit of PVA glue along the bottom. So, something like that, and we can then glue that into place. Now, in the last episode, I forgot to point out that there are also some little pigs, so I think I'll make this into a pig pen. So I'll just go ahead and dab a spot of glue to the bottom of each leg, and stick that down into place. And while I'm at it, I'll also glue a few of the houses to the tile as well. Again, just using a few blobs of PVA glue. So, there you go. There's a few things finally glued down into place. And coming up next, I think we'll add a few fields to the other side of the road. Okay then, all I've done here is printed some of the field texture onto some sticky back label paper. And then we'll just need to cut out a piece of this, in whatever shape seems appropriate. So, in this example, I've got it following the edge of the road. Then we can peel off the backing and simply stick that down into place. It's all fairly straightforward stuff. Now, if you take a look at some of the fence textures, you'll see that I've included a couple of extra gates here and there, and we'll just need to cut one of those to size. Then we'll add a spot of PVA glue to the bottom of the gate, like so, and then stick that down wherever we want there to be an entrance to the field. So, something like this. Actually, it'll be a bit more visible if I turn the whole thing around, so there you go. Right then, next we're going to make a hedge. So, here I've printed some of the leaf pattern to both sides of a sheet of paper. And I've then cut a strip that's around 2 inches wide, basically the length of my own pair of scissors. And speaking of scissors, I'll be using the same decorative ones that I used for the trees. So all we'll need to do is cut 3 strips, each of them around 1 centimetre wide. There you go. Then we'll take 2 of those and fold them in half, like you can see here. And then, just using a regular glue stick, we'll glue those back to back. And with any luck, we should end up with something that looks like this. Okay, next we'll warm up the glue gun and apply a thin line of glue along the centre of the last strip. Then we can fold the other 2 pieces back together and press those into the glue. Next, I personally like to take a toothpick and kind of fold the outside edges of the first piece around that. Hopefully you can see what I mean in the video. And then, to finish it off, we'll fold up the sides of the bottom piece. And that should result in a nice little hedge that looks something like this. And, of course, we'll need to make a few of those. Okay then, next we're going to need to start cutting some of these to size. And the way that I like to do this is to lay one of the hedges roughly in place along the edge of the field, and then cut the end off at an angle, a bit like a mitre joint. So if I do the same thing for the second piece, this is the kind of thing that I mean. And just like we did with the fences, I like to glue these into place with a spot of PVA glue. There you go. And as you'll see, before gluing anything into place, I'll usually cut a couple of sides to size first. Essentially, I'll cut side 2 to size before gluing side 1 down, then I'll cut side 3 to size before gluing down side 2, and so on. Hopefully that made sense. Anyway, I'll leave this part running at 10 times speed or something like that, just so that you can see me working my way around all of the edges. And while I'm doing that, to fill a bit of dead air, I may as well point out that you can find me in all the usual places, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. There'll be links down in the description. And if you'd like to share pictures of some of your own projects, then please do feel free to join the Discord server. That's probably the best place to do that kind of thing. Anyway, there you go. That's how it looks at the moment. So I'll just go around and squash those back together a little bit, so they don't look quite so wide. And that's that done. There's the finished field. I think they will do the job quite nicely. Okay, next we're going to make a field of wheat. So we'll print out this texture on both sides of a piece of paper, and like before, cut out a 2-inch wide strip. Then the first part of the assembly is similar to the hedges, but this time we'll only need 2 pieces, which we'll fold in half and glue together as before. Basically, we're aiming for this kind of thing again. And we will of course need to make a few of those. Next we'll need to cut out a piece of the ploughed field texture, and all we're going to do is hot glue one of these strips to each of the ridges. So here I am running a line of hot glue along the paper, making sure that it's a bit longer than what we actually need, and then gluing the wheat into place, so that it ends up looking something like this. Then it's just a matter of repeating the process until you end up with a whole field of wheat. So, once again, I'll leave this running at like 10 times speed so you can see how it all comes together. And there you go. Here's how it looks. And all we'll need to do now is trim away the excess paper. So I'll just quickly go ahead and do that now. However, when doing this, you'll probably squash the wheat pattern together a little bit, so you might like to open it back out again by running a toothpick along the inside. And that's all there is to it. Here's the finished wheat field, which is now ready to be stuck on top of the hex tile that we've been making. That being said, for this particular tile, I've gone ahead and trimmed a few fields to the shapes you can see here, just so that they follow the road a little bit better. And if I just peel the backing off the label paper, those can be stuck into place without the need for any glue, which is, that's the great thing about using label paper. Anyway, here's the second one going on now, though I'm also going to fill this little space here with a small shed, so I'll go ahead and do just that. And there you go, there's the finished tile with all of the little fields and enclosures added. And yeah, I'm quite happy with how this looks, and if I just quickly slide in another one alongside it, you can see that adding these, it really helps to give the whole thing more of a rural appearance. Anyway, I think that's it for another episode, so here's a quick look at all of the tiles that I've made so far, and as I say, I'm quite pleased with how this little project is turning out. But yeah, all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching. Do let me know what you think of these, and whether or not it's something you'll be using yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.